you answered the letter. Now, like me, you are a part of this place.
All right, welcome back to Darkest Dungeon. Episode 9, Week 17, getting underway. And boy, oh boy, do we have a doozy of an episode in store for you, Devatron. Our first boss in the Warrens, the Swine Prince, as well as A Beautiful Thing, Part 2. A lot going on, Devatron. Okay, starting off as usual with the stagecoach, having a look at the fresh new recruits that have just arrived. There are 3, in fact, that I'd like to pick up. However, notice our roster's full. Now, instead of converting heirlooms and upgrading the stagecoach so that we can have a bigger roster, I decide that probably it's better in this situation just to replace existing heroes with the new ones. Now, whenever you do something like this, you definitely want a good reason to do so, especially if the existing heroes that you're replacing already have some experience, or if you've invested any amount of gold into them, like removing negative quirks or upgrading their weapons and armor or their skills, etc. Now, of the 3 heroes that I'm going to replace, I haven't invested any gold in any of them, but all 3 of them have done a quest already, and they all have reached level 1. Now, level 1 isn't a big deal, it's just 2 XP total, so it means they've done 1 short apprentice level quest, maybe a medium if they're at 3 XP, something like that, but not a big deal. But notice this Vestal, she's at 100 stress from the last quest, she has an affliction, 2 negative quirks, one of which is permanent, just a mess.
This one has become vestigial, useless.
So, no reason to spend time and resources fixing her. Let's just get rid of her and pick up a fresh one.
A sister of battle, pious and unrelenting.
And next, our Abomination has musical, kind of worthless, and fading really bad, so he's got to go.
Slumped shoulders, wild eyes, and a stumbling gait. This one is no more good to us. Tortured and reclusive, this man is more dangerous than he seems.
Now, I consider this Bounty Hunter and also the Crusader, but they're not any better than what we have. As for our Man-at-Arms, he's a little beat up, has some stress, and most important, he doesn't have any good quirks. The negative ones aren't great, the positive ones aren't great, but this new guy, Dive Bugulin, he has early riser, which increases speed as long as the torch is above 75, and that is really good.
Suffer not the lame horse, nor the broken man.
And most important, Devatron, this new Man-at-Arms has 2 names, and that is big time.
The raw strength of youth may be spent, but his eyes hold the secrets of 100 campaigns.
Alright, so getting down to business, let's form this party. This is going to be a Shieldbreaker, a Vestal, a Houndmaster, and a Musketeer. Now, you might ask, why did you take a Shieldbreaker into a boss fight knowing that, you're going to camp and you might get one of the A Beautiful Thing nightmare flashback encounters? And while that's a pretty valid criticism, and most certainly we can come up with a different 1 slot, right? You could use a leper here. A leper can hit the Swine Prince no problem. Maybe a Crusader. Any number of other heroes could fill that slot and do just fine, right? Well, the reason is that the Shieldbreaker, and only the Shieldbreaker, has a camping skill called Sandstorm, which we're currently purchasing here at the Survivalist. And what that does is it allows a companion not to be marked. So with that information in mind, you can infer that there's going to be some kind of issues with enemies marking the party that's going to occur with this boss fight, right? And then you could say, well, yeah, Sandstorm's great and all, but it's only going to prevent marks on one companion, not the whole party, so why even bother, right? Well, the reason is that you can put Sandstorm on either an Arbalist or Musketeer, doesn't matter which, and that prevents them from being marked. And then they can use their ability on their turn, which clears marks from the rest of your party. So you see then it ends up being a perfect synergy, because, for example, if you just took, say, an Arbalist or Musketeer and you didn't take the Shieldbreaker, then the Arbalist or Musketeer could clear the marks on the rest of your party no problem, but their ability doesn't clear the mark from themselves, right? So that's why you need the Shieldbreaker with Sandstorm cast on the Arbalist or Musketeer so that they can't be marked, and then they in turn can clear the marks from the rest of the party when it's their turn. Okay, so now that we have the bee burner party composition analysis out of the way, let's move on to trinkets. Now, firstly, you'll notice I'm selling off quite a few trinkets, and that's because we're running low on gold, and the ones I'm selling aren't very useful, so why not? And then second, as for what we're going to equip here, it's a good idea going into this boss to have as many hit points on your characters as possible. So any trinkets I have that increase max hit points I'm going to use. The other thing to note is that I don't equip any trinkets on the Houndmaster, and that's because he has a quirk called Natural, and what that does is it gives him a bonus to hit points, speed, and healing received, as long as he's not wearing any trinkets at all, right? So that's why I don't equip any trinkets on him. Now last, you'll notice here in the sanitarium, I go ahead and trade in some heirlooms, convert them appropriately so that I can upgrade patient cells, which will increase the amount of treatment ward slots to 2. Okay, there you have it. And this is really big time. As quickly as you can get all 3 of those treatment ward slots available, the better, because that means you can have more heroes getting negative quirks removed per turn as you're off doing a quest. And here I elect to remove a very expensive permanent quirk on our second Houndmaster, called Warren's Phobe. And then for the second one, I go ahead and remove a really nasty curio interaction quirk called Compulsive, and I get rid of that on Reynald, our favorite Crusader. And one more thing before we head out, I sort the roster by stress level and consider committing our highest stressed heroes to some stress relief facilities, but I realize I don't have enough gold. I briefly checked to see if I could sell any more trinkets off in order to generate some gold to pay for those stress relief activities, but I didn't feel like selling any more off, so just skipping that for now. So we're on to provisioning. Now here you'll notice that the gold gets pretty tight pretty quickly, as is often the case with provisioning. And while I wasn't willing to sell any trinkets to make more gold for stress relief, I go ahead and sell one of them here in order to afford more provisions. And you might think, man, that's kind of silly. Why are you selling off trinkets for provisions? Well, keep in mind, I'm going into a boss dungeon, first of all. Second of all, I'm taking a Shieldbreaker, which means I have a 50-50 chance of having to do one of those A Beautiful Thing nightmare encounters, right? So I'm going to want as much as possible in case I do get one of those encounters so that I can top off and be as prepared as possible for the boss.
The ways and rituals of blood sacrifice are difficult to master. Those from beyond require a physical vessel if they are to make the crossing into our reality. The timing of the chants is imperative. Without the proper utterances at precise intervals, the process can fail spectacularly. A nameless abomination. A testament to my failures. It must be destroyed.
Okay, so here we go into the Warrens after the Swine Prince, and as we open the map and start counting distance in rooms from the starting square, we see that there are 2 possible rooms that the Swine Prince could be in.
Glittering gold, trinkets and baubles, paid for in blood. The light, the promise of safety. Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles. A momentary abatement. Slow death. Unforeseen. Unforgiving. Another abomination, cleansed from our lands. Slowly, gently. This is how a life is taken. A handsome reward for a task well performed.
Alright, all in all, not too bad for a first fight. Our musketeer is in a little bit of stress trouble, but hopefully we can whittle that down over the next fights and also with the camping.
In Radiance, may we find victory. Press this advantage. Give them no quarter. Formation is broken. Maintain the offensive. As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms. Begone, fiend! Back to the pit. Executed with impunity.
Oh, 1 hit point left, Dev. Our Vestal really let us down there from just a perfect surprise round.
Another one falls. Be wary. Triumphant pride precipitates a dizzying fall. The way is lit. The path is clear. We require only the strength to follow it. A spark without kindling is a goal without hope.
Okay, a couple things. We looted a key there which I could use on that heirloom chest. I decided to wait until after we rested because we'll have more inventory spot for treasure, because using the firewood frees up 1 inventory spot, right? Second, we really needed to get a lucky scouting check to figure out which of the adjacent rooms has the boss in it. We didn't get that, so we're either going to have to guess right or just do more rooms than we have to. Either way, it's not that big a deal. Now, as for our rest here, you saw that the Shieldbreaker did give us her little bark, letting us know that we're going to have a nightmare. As for skills, I did the all-important Sandstorm on the Musketeer. I buffed the Shieldbreaker's hit points and protection. I prevented a nighttime ambush, which in retrospect I think was unnecessary. And then last here I'm going to reduce the amount of incoming stress for the next 4 battles on our Shieldbreaker to try and help with that heavy stress that she takes every round during the nightmare encounter.
Festering fear consumes the mind.
There will be no rest by the fire tonight. Continue the onslaught. Destroy them all. Compassion is a rarity in the fevered pitch of battle. Seize this momentum. Push on to the task's end.
Such exquisiteness must be admired, they say, and so I am made to dance for their desperate, dust-pitted faces, for their watery, bloodshot eyes, their cracked, grinning lips. I am not a person to this debauched audience. I am an exotic wonder. I am a beautiful thing. Okay, so not too bad, although as expected, poor Vadaville is just skyrocketing on stress. Not what we want going into a boss fight. And onto the loot, we get the second Shieldbreaker trinket called a Shimmering Scale. It's so-so. But more important, we get 3 of what are called Aegis Scales. And these are really neat. They're not trinkets that you equip on heroes, but rather they're provisioning items that show up in the provision screen before you embark on a quest. And you can take them for free, but once you use them, they're gone. And how you use them is you right-click on them, and then the next attack on that hero will be absorbed, and they'll take 0 damage.
Finding the stuff is only the first test. Now it must be carried home.
And truer words were never spoken, right? One of the toughest parts of this game is the inventory constraints and having to destroy perfectly good gold and supply items, etc., to make room for other more important loot. It's absolutely infuriating, especially to, how shall we say, loot lovers like ourselves. But at any rate, we got it. We're choosing left, Devatron. Always go left, right?
Watch your step.
The match is struck. A blazing star is born.
Okay, now if the boss is behind this door, then we need to be as prepared as possible. So, going ahead and topping off our heroes. The only problem is if the boss isn't behind this door and we have to travel back to the other room, then we've burned through our food, and if we get a hunger check, we'll be screwed, right? So I have to leave 4 food in case that happens. Now here I go ahead and check all the active skills on each hero in case we need something different for the boss. Like here I go ahead and get rid of the stress heal on the Houndmaster and instead take the mark. Only problem with this is that if it's not the boss, then I don't have a stress heal and we can't help Vadaville lower her stress. So we'll see how it goes, Devatron. No, Devatron. We guessed wrong. We should have gone right. Always go right, Dev.
Destroyed.
No stress heal? No problem. We'll just crit our way through this fight and heal off the stress that way.
Impressive.
Precision and power.
A time to perform beyond one's limits.
Okay, so we guessed wrong, had to do another fight. We got through it, no big deal. A little unlucky on the chest, our poor Houndmaster got blighted. But now we know where the boss is. Hopefully we won't get any more fights in this hallway along the way to meet him.
Obliterated.
Decimated. As victories mount, so too will resistance.
And of course we got another fight. But no big deal. That was actually really good, and we were able to heal off some stress with crits and whatnot. At any rate, we're here. The boss is just behind this door. We can eat up the last of our food without worry. Let's get to it, Devatron. Here comes the Swine Prince.
It is a travesty. A blundering mountain of hatred and rage. Momentary abatement. Is even more horrible in death. Liquefaction cannot come soon enough. A momentary abatement. Compassion is a rarity in the fevered pitch of battle. This expedition at least promises success.
Oh yeah, big time, Devatron. Say goodbye to the Swine Prince. And let's say goodbye to that nasty little marking piglet, Wilbur. God, he was annoying. Check out this hall. Not the most gold, but a decent amount of heirlooms and a nice arbalist reward here. All right, 4 XP for everybody. Looks like our Houndmaster got some kind of backtracker quirk reward. Wow, that's pretty lame. What can we do, Devatron? Darkest Dungeon! The Swine Prince and a Beautiful Thing Part 2. Doing double duty. We'll see you in the next episode.